Welcome to Women at Halftime podcast, but not just for women, for you men too. If you're at mid-career or the halftime of life, our inspirational topics are not only fun, but also meant to help you maximize and write your next chapter. Right here with me, Deborah Johnson. Well, hello, everyone. This is the week where I bring Greg on with me. Thank you for coming with me, Derek.
Hi, everybody.
Yes. And we're on another journey today with a wonderful episode that I thought was important, and we'll tell you why in just a moment, but the title of What to Talk About. And you might be thinking, no problem talking, but we just wanted to cover a couple points here, and you might say, oh, this is hugely helpful. And as a reminder that for this podcast, Women at Halftime, we aim for mostly the people that are at mid-career, halftime of life. Of course, there are others that listen to this, and you are welcome to, because you will gain great value as well. Have my new book, Stop Circling. Make sure you have that. And it's great as a gift as well. Summit book as well. I have now available, as this comes out, a page where you can download these books, have them signed personally as gifts. So anyway, well, let's kind of dig into this now about what to talk about. And as I think about this, even that subject, I used to sing the song Something to Talk About by Bonnie Raitt. Came out in 1991, performed that for years. And but that was all about love, 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 love. But we have some other ideas. And let's talk about why we would even talk about this. Why don't you bring up one point why we would talk about it?
Well, as you move through life, some of your old friends get old. You want new friends. Sometimes you outgrow them. Sometimes you decide to move into another area of life and you need to meet new people. Sometimes your kids take you into new relationships. Often your business will require you to develop new relationships with either potential customers or new vendors or whatever. And whatever the case, often you're asking yourself the question, okay, what can we talk about? And we put together a little help to at least get you going until you find something that you realize you and the other person really want to talk about.
And one of the best ways to initiate some conversation, of course, is just to ask questions. That kind of gets you off the...
Right. But what we're hoping to do is to give you topics to ask questions about.
Yes. So there is an acronym that we have, a little device, and we've put together FRIENDS. So family, recreation, interests, endeavors, news, details about families and business, and sports. So we're going to just cover each one of these just real briefly. I do put an article out with this one, so make sure you get it, because you'll have a free little download that will come with this to be able to fill in some of your own ideas. So that'll be helpful, completely free. So let's talk about family first, because that's kind of the top of what people, when you've got kids, what do you talk about? You talk about it.
Well, yeah, and behind all of this is generally people don't mind talking. In fact, they like talking about themselves.
Yes.
But unless you ask them questions, many times everybody will just stand in the corner. So you're actually serving other people by asking them questions that are easy for them to answer. And, recently we were at an event, probably had a couple of hundred people. It was a think tank that we enjoy kind of being a part of, but we didn't necessarily know anybody. So we, as a couple, walk up to another couple and say, hi, we're the Johnsons. How are you guys? Is this your first time here? And where are you from? And then we'd get into the acronym. So we typically ask them, does your family still live in wherever your hometown is? So we'd get into family. How many kids do you have? are they in college yet? And you just kind of go down that trail. And then if they don't ask you about your family, you move down to R.
Yes, that's right. And yeah, it's a great starting point there. And ours are like recreation. And we put under this, a big deal right now is pickleball. And it seems like, oh, did you see that now they've started these tournaments and competition. It's not quite up there, of course, with tennis, but it's really taken a step up. So there are things that you can talk about with recreation, what you do, whether you walk, what do you do for getting outside.
Yeah, so we might transition from family by saying, some of the stuff that we like doing with our family is we'll walk together, or we'll get when we're visiting the the son up in Sacramento, we'll watch basketball together, or maybe we'll go lift weights together. What do your kids do?
Yes, yeah,
and that transition it back into them, and they have an idea of what subject we're now on.
Right. And again, we're just kind of putting these out there briefly. So you're going to take them from here because you'll come up with your own ideas, I am sure.
Now, somewhere down on the list, there's details. Mm-hmm. So when you're on recreation, somebody might say, well, 5 years ago, I really got into yoga. Switch down to D and go into details. Say, why did you get into yoga? Well, I found the need that I needed to stretch. My body was getting stiff, or I found that the workout provides the strength training I need. Yeah. Interesting. Why did you need strength training? You just once you find something they're interested in talking about, you just use details to keep asking deeper and deeper questions about the yoga studio and what poses they like the most and what do they find most beneficial.
Right.
And then you can always switch, from yoga over to, so besides exercising, are you also eating differently?
Yes. And that's another one of our, of our health, or I can just go right into there, your interests. So, okay. So we've covered family and giving you some ideas there, and then recreation. Right. And if we kind of move down this list, and you should be able to cross over easily.
Yes.
Now with interests, could be hobbies, it could be church or nonprofits, or what are you involved with right now? What are you interested in? They might be interested in, I'm interested in saving the as we were just in Hawaii, some of
saving the whales,
or the little creatures that are out down there, and I want to make sure that we're not displacing. A lot of special interests can be here.
Protecting the coral.
Yes, the coral especially. So those would be. Under interest, people have interest in all sorts of things. What they're doing. Some people have interest. I've known some now that have just started singing in a choir.
And so a way to lead into this, if you didn't get it from recreation, would be, do you have any interesting interests that you're pursuing?
Yeah.
Or maybe instead of interesting interest, unique interests.
Right.
Or specialized interests.
Right.
And they go, what do you mean? Well, I'm assuming you're not a brain surgeon. So, are you do you support other nonprofits? When you were coaching your children, did you find any of that fascinating? And maybe they'll say no, but hopefully they'll bite and reveal the fact that they love studying French in France, and they go there 2 months out of the year every year.
I found one of my neighbors who went to Germany for months at a time, and she was also a college professor, but I would have never known that if I hadn't asked some of those questions. So very interesting.
Yeah, and some of the fascinating things is when you find other people's interests, every now and then you go, I would enjoy that.
Yes, gives you more to talk about. So, okay, so we've covered family, we've covered recreation and interests, and now let's go with endeavors. Now, this is an interesting one because this can be widespread here with vacations. It can be with remedies.
Well, and at the halftime of life, it can also be the entrepreneur dreams that you have.
Exactly.
Now, it's interesting how many people are trying, different things,
right,
in order to make money, reinvent themselves, respond to economies,
right.
So.
Yep. Starting a side business. I just have a wonderful webinar, and it's you can get it anytime now, but it's a webinar that's online of just starting your side business and what it takes and how to, really discover maybe if this is a viable option. So those are all these endeavors, and this might be, your vacation, some of your travel, like what do you want to do and where do you want to go next? I mean, we were at a holiday party and started talking to a couple and found out they had traveled like to Egypt and how they had gone and how it's just all of these places that we have not been. Of course, we had gone to South Africa. So we were telling our story of travel. And it was the first time we had met this couple. And they, it was very interesting about talking about the travels. It gave us a lot to talk about. Actually, I think we talked to them almost the entire evening. It saved me from eating more of the great desserts, actually. So, but it was really interesting when you can start talking then, not just about what you do, but ask questions intelligently about what they do. And it's just launching.
Yeah, I was recently with a group of friends, and some had just retired, some were thinking about retirement. It was interesting. A number of them were interested in reinvesting themselves into boards and serving on different boards of organizations that they've supported throughout the years. So, that's kind of a neat endeavor.
It sure is. And as I remember you telling me, these were, very successful business people that had gone, now they're at that stage of life. And the fact that you could share that with each other and just say what you're interested in, it launches up. Oh, well, maybe I might be interested in that in the future, or be able to ask more questions. And we'll get to a little bit of how to even, being well read and all of that, but that'll just help you to be able to ask more intelligent questions and even develop your own interests. So, okay, so we got the family, FR, recreation, interests, endeavors. And now let's talk about news. Now, news is a hot button these days because we want to be selective on this because it's not always news. There's a lot of opinion out there. So you want to be really selective, but in a group, you might find people that are very like-minded fairly quickly.
Well, and if you've gone through the family, the recreation, the interests and endeavors, at this stage, you can probably come up with a headline that they're interested in. If they're big baseball fans, you can ask them about their local team.
Right.
That's news,
And that's pretty safe.
Yeah. What did you think about that pitcher getting hurt this week? Or, what do you think of that hitter's 7-game hitting streak? You can go safe because by this time you hopefully have figured out what they're interested in and what side of the fence they like to play ball on. And so and I think it's important with news. You want to be able to talk about a larger sort of selection of subjects and not just news with people. Once you get into that, right there. And do you mean to stay away from political news? Is that what you were hoping?
I was hoping to not just talk about political.
Yeah, because there's all sorts of news. There's economic news.
Right.
There's sports news.
Right.
There's obviously political news, but there's nuanced news, about, train wrecks or, it's certainly economic news.
Right.
Employment news, how you can circle back to the family. Is all your family employed? Or are they
Right.
managing these economic times?
Mhm.
So, and something that's important about the news is to ask their opinion about the news. What do you
Right.
think about whatever?
That is a great point.
Because at this stage in the conversation, hopefully, people are comfortable about sharing their opinion.
Right.
Sometimes at the beginning, people are a little sheepish about sharing their opinion because they don't want to get stabbed in the back.
Right.
But if you've broken the ice with, family and you've shown that you're legitimately interested in them as a person, at this stage, just ask them, so what did you think about the train wreck in Ohio?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you're not going to just be cut down from something you say is the
Right.
main thing. Is,
Right.
sometimes there's that fear. And I think, because of what's happened with news and politics, I think there are a lot of people that are afraid of that. So, and
But-
justifiably,
But
some
be
areas-
prepared. Once you ask somebody their opinion,
Yeah.
I've been completely sideswiped
Yes.
lots of times by the opinion, because it's one that I had never heard before.
Yeah.
It not only was it not mine, it was not one that I had heard before. And at that point, you need to be ready to affirm their opinion and to ask to explore it more, because you might learn something.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid that if somebody has an opinion about the news that differs from yours, that somehow the conversation's over. Because our world needs more honest discussion about things we disagree on, without doing it in a disagreeable way. So anyway, don't be afraid of that.
I am so glad you brought that point up, because it was one of the reasons I wanted to even talk about this subject, what to talk about, because I find, especially, as we have a whole generation that's coming up that's not as much, they're not readers, and they're not, what are they going to have to talk about? Are they going to be able to hold actual intelligent conversations with each other? And so we want there's very few times and very few families now that are just sitting around the table talking to each other at the family meal. It's different today. And it was even hard for us because we had so much sports going on, and being able to have that sort of intelligent conversation, listening to each other, being able to respond and refer, at least affirm that, okay, I think I understand that, or can you tell me more and why you're really thinking that way? At least it doesn't close people off. And I think our world needs more of that in that conversation.
Yeah, I've had to work hard at getting comfortable too with just moving on with them having stated their opinion and not inviting any kind of feedback from me.
Yeah.
So they may say that I believe men from Mars are going to be here sometime in the next 30 years.
Yeah.
And here's my 14 reasons as to why. And I just need to go,
yeah,
fascinating. And then just move on to so what about those Yankees?
Yeah. You were a lot better at that than me. I get a little stuck in there. And it's hard. It's hard emotionally. I just want to go, really? Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, you this is about how to have a conversation. It's not how to fix everybody.
How to fix. I know. We just, as a mom too, I just want to fix. So, but this is really good to go through these steps, especially at this point in our life, because of our kids as well. Because we are initiating conversations now with our kids. And when the basketball is, we're done talking about basketball. Okay, so now I want to bring up something else. And okay, what do I tell? There's other things now to be able to, other ideas.
Yeah. And, speaking of kids, so kids, in their 20s are not going to be super fired up about doing this. So, you need to ask safe questions and move them along. In their 30s, if you've been doing it for 10 years, they start to, participate a little bit. What we're finding is as they approach 40, they're actually becoming interesting.
Yes.
So, have faith.
Yeah. Because they're going through some of the things that we've gone through financially, with their homes, with, paying taxes, doing all of this. And now it's like, oh, okay. So they're able to have some sort of a conversation. So, well, let's move on from that. We've got family, recreation, interests, endeavors, news. Now we are to details. We talked about this a little bit, but I really like this one on details because it's going a little bit deeper and how to do that. And I think one of the biggest things in the details area is for us to keep a lifelong learning sort of attitude ourselves, and with our interests and with our reading. Both of us are readers. And so we do have coffee every morning, most every mornings. I'm very spoiled with my cappuccino that Greg makes me, but we talk and, okay, what am I reading? What can we talk about together that's not just about, okay, this son did this or this, we've got bills, to pay or whatever. But we're able to talk about, oh, I've been reading this and what do you think about this? And I've heard this new statistic and what's up with that. So there is that point about details where you can go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think spinning off the idea of being a lifelong learner, I know we've tried to nurture being genuine in our curiosity.
Right.
So if you're, if you're talking to somebody and they begin talking about, being an engineer, something I know very little about, to be genuinely interested in, how architecture works and the physics behind stuff, and how did they figure out that they were interested in engineering, but have them explain things. It's fascinating to me. Debbie's a super accomplished pianist with tons of studying music theory. And I don't remember one conversation by somebody who was a non-musician who really asked her detailed questions about how do you compose a song.
Yeah.
And it's just too bad because you've got this wealth of information and no curiosity.
I am asked often, not often, but with people that know what I've done because I'm a writer. Oh, do you write the lyrics first or the melody first? That's a very standard question, by the way. And I never mind being asked that, but I'm asked that over and over. Or what's your favorite song? I mean, there's like these standard ones. And it's kind of interesting if someone goes a little deeper because they have been well read. It makes it interesting for me of, okay, so what is your favorite period of time? And why? Why would you like impressionist music? I mean, how is that associated with art or, that sort of thing? So just to be, it's a challenge to me in some other areas as well. That's why I want to, get involved and read that I can ask intelligent questions. And I interviewed someone with dyslexia, and I wanted to know a little bit more about dyslexia before I went into that podcast interview. And so the podcast gives me a great way of increasing my learning because I want to be able to ask intelligent questions there. So it's almost like you can pretend that way that you are, just helping people draw them out of some of those areas.
But the curiosity part, when you're getting into details, this is where you need to feel free.
Yeah.
And you can really get into some interesting conversations. So, I've got some friends that are in real estate, and, a typical question might be, so what have the changes in interest rates, done to your portfolio? Are you comfortable with the amount of debt you're carrying? And more importantly, why?
Mhm.
And, and then whatever they say, I can go deeper and deeper, and you can have a whole deep conversation about the proper use of leverage, and,
Right.
you go details into their emotions about, grinding through recessions, and, how did they manage that? If you switch from that, I've got a number of doctors friends that are in partnerships, and an interesting conversation is how you're going to wind down the partnership,
Right.
because it's really difficult to sell off your business, and most doctors are panicked about how to do that, and the curiosity leads you into a conversation where you get to communicate that you really care about them.
Right.
Without the curiosity, the conversation stays pretty stale. So if you would enjoy genuine conversations, perhaps creating genuine friendships, this detail part is built on having genuine curiosity and just following the conversation to a place where the other person realizes, you really care and understand.
Right. What a great point there, because again, a lot of us have come from, okay, when you're talking to somebody, you're thinking about, okay, what am I going to say next? What am I going to say? How can I talk about myself? I mean, a lot of people are like that. You want to be able to focus there, to be able to ask those questions. And if someone is a good conversationalist, they will end up turning that right back around toward you. I don't usually expect that. There's a lot of times I'm never asked. I've come into situations, I'm never asked what I do, never asked about my business, never asked about, the wealth of things that I have available.
And it is pretty fun. How many books have you written now?
I've written 6, and I have music books out there.
Yeah, and it's 20, do you put together 20 CDs? I don't know how many musicals, runs a marketing campaign, and, very few people are interested in going, how do you do all of that?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I just keep plugging away and keep working because I love my work. But if someone asks if I'm available to speak or to talk about something, of course.
And now, as we're talking about that, the reality is most people are pretty protective.
Yes.
And asking questions, like how do you do all of that stuff, can, to an insecure person, make them feel like, well, if I reveal I don't know the answers to that, then I'm not a very good person, so, curious people have gotten over the hurdle of being afraid of not knowing everything.
Right. And that comes with that confidence. It's courage. Courage brings confidence.
Yeah.
So, the more you do it, the better it'll be. And our last one, and we've talked about this already, is sports, because that was within some of the news and everything. But sports are huge. I did not even realize how big sports was until we had sons and sons that were getting older. And I could basically, put the phone on speakerphone and just listen to Greg and one of the boys talk about basketball like forever, but it gives them a lot to talk about. And we always talk about other things as well, but there's always something with sports, and especially with, I found, raising boys. Not all of boys are this way, but ours were.
Anymore though, somebody who's raising girls, there's a good chance that they're involved in sports. So knowing a little bit about various sports, helps you pursue that. I think too, people that are fans, there's an interesting story as to how did you become a fan? Did your dad take you to games? We were on vacation and met a couple from Kansas, and found out they were huge Kansas City Chiefs fans. And it was the beginning of football season. And it was, we just stayed in touch as the season developed over the Chiefs.
Yes.
And, it's nothing super deep, but it just gives you a place to connect and the touch.
Right.
And it's easy.
Yeah, we were able to send a message, was it the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
one of those, and say, okay, who are you rooting for? And talking about, I just didn't grow up with sports because I grew up more with the music and with the arts. But I mean, women's sports are huge right now, and they're making a larger impact. And I have some very good colleagues that they follow everything on certain teams, and they are very, very vocal. So, and women. So there are both sides. I just have to be able to listen and be able to ask enough questions and smile and nod my head. And I probably need to do a little better at that, but it's an area of what to talk about.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to just kind of review just real quick again all of our little acronym here, and then any closing little ideas there. Hopefully you will build upon your own, and this will help, because I just think people need to be able to have safe conversations, and not just safe conversations, but intelligent conversations that can inspire our thinking, and we can get along, and we can disagree, and we can just know what others are thinking. That's fine. They can think the way they do. It's, you can be part of different organizations and different philosophies or whatever, but we can still have those conversations. So family, recreation, that's our R. I is our interests with hobbies and whatever. Endeavors, which includes vacations, which that's great. Travel is a wonderful place to start talking about.
Right.
News, and being selective on that, but there's a lot of, not being afraid of asking opinions. Details. The details really comes in as you're talking about other things, and you can just dive a little bit deeper, but courage, have some courage with this, and it will develop more confidence. And then, of course, sports. So anything else that you have to add to this, Greg?
No, hopefully, if you find yourself stuck in a new conversation, you can just kind of rip down the letters FRINIENGS
That's a good one.
and think of a topic to bring up. So
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping.
And I mean, what movies have you seen? I mean, that's under one of these too. If you talk about the movies, they just didn't get.
I mean, entertainment falls under recreation.
Yeah, it sure does.
So,
I mean, you can.
And so does travel, and
yeah. And we've talked about that before, because your opinion, you're saying, they just didn't develop that plot right. And I'm a writer thinking they could have developed the characters better. So it gives us more to talk about. So which is a great thing. So anyway, thank you all for being with us today. This is such a pleasure. You can always reach me, get onto our newsletter. I'm going to say this nice and slow, goalsforyourlife.com/newsletter. And you can also always reach me too at Deborah Johnson Speaker, DJ Works Music. I always have new things coming out and free downloads, so make sure you get a hold of our newsletter. That's a great place to get it. We don't spam you. It comes every week, and you'll get our recent podcast as well. So thanks again for joining us, and thank you for joining me.
Sure.
And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us. It is because of our wonderful listeners like you that we keep going strong week after week. We'd love it if you'd share and follow us to not miss a single show, and even write a review. You can also find all of our articles, products, and links at womenathalftime.com.